I'm Gavin, and this is MLS Fantasy Picks. Before we get into round 11 picks, here's a quick round 10 recap. Turning things around. Very pleased with this week. I finally went up in ranks after a few rough weeks. I ended with 107 points for round 10. I had a week rank of 329, and my overall rank is now 94. My budget increased from 140.3 million to 144.5 million. Went right. I was very pleased with my bench plays. I was glad I stuck with Amundsen, as I almost switched him to Yedlin. I also stuck with Benteke, who had a great performance against Seattle. Messi was phenomenal as always against New England, and I was pleased with my midfield performances for the most part. What went wrong? My keepers in defense this week. Not a lot of clean sheets to choose from, so I was glad that I had Amundsen. 3s from my keeper and my 2 defenders is still better than a 2 from each. Also, I was a bit disappointed with Painsel's performance in Austin. I was surprised the Galaxy didn't even score 1 goal. Alright, let's take a look at the MLS Fantasy Picks leagues. Looking at the MLS Fantasy Picks Open League, shout out to Brexit Ball FC, a great score of 117 this week. Brexit made the right picks with a strong back line, consistent midfield plays, and the top strikers. Well done. The Fantasy Picks Open League is growing every week, so welcome to everyone who has subscribed or joined the league, and if you haven't joined the league yet, the link is in the description below. Looking at the head-to-head league, we are down to 7 undefeated teams out of the 100 teams in that league. Well done to everyone in both leagues. Alright, let's get into round 11. So some key considerations for this round. Our bye team this week is the Columbus Crew. And as always, keep an eye out for injuries and red and yellow cards. Be sure to check out, I think it's like the day before or the day of, MLS will release their disciplinary report, for red and yellow cards, and also their injury report. So just keep up to date on those and make sure you're not playing any injured or suspended players. And regarding tournaments, we've got Champions Cup games this coming Wednesday, so I know it doesn't really impact fantasy as Columbus will be on the bye, but still, it's exciting. Go watch it. Not a lot of impact to fantasy, but hey, you got some good soccer during the week. Why not go watch it? All right, let's get started with keepers. First up, I've got Takaoka with Vancouver at home against Austin. Takaoka's got the late game, so I like him for the late option with the keeperoo. Then another late game, I think it's on Sunday. You've got Freese at home against Colorado. Not my number one fallback option for a keeperoo, as I feel like Colorado are trending upwards, and I could get a goal or 2 against NYC. So who I like a bit more on the front end of a keeperoo is Johnson with Toronto against Dallas, as I'm not, too set or too confident of Dallas scoring a few, but we'll see. Basically, I liked Vancouver, I liked New York as well. A lot of other players in the field I didn't really want to waste on a keeper spot. So I think what I'm liking the most is a Johnson to Takaoka keeperoo, but you still got some other options as well. And that's where Brady comes in. Can Chicago keep another clean sheet? Possibly. I mean, they're playing New England, who have not looked great, but it's really hard to tell with Chicago how they'll be, so he's a decent option. Then I've also got Clark against St. Louis. So yeah, Houston at home against St. Louis. They are pretty good defensively. They didn't do so hot last week against Dallas, so look to see them rebound this week. Then another one, not a huge fan of, but it's a shout, and he's not too expensive, is Willis with Nashville at home against Montreal. I know Montreal are missing some of their top attackers, so there's a chance of a clean sheet, but Nashville have been very leaky on the defensive side. Go look at their scores this year, and yeah, they haven't looked great. They've let in a lot of goals, so not a huge fan of Willis myself personally. And then budget keepers, not a lot out there. Spend it on, some decent keepers for keeperoo. Hope for the best. All right, getting started with defenders. Who else but Mr. Brooks Lennon? Atlanta are at home against Minnesota, they're looking better offensively, but I feel like Lennon's got a good option, on the attacking side. There's a clean sheet chance there as well. He's worth the money this week for me. Another option, also a bit expensive, is Veselinovic for Vancouver at home against Austin. Austin did well at home against the Galaxy last week, but I still like Vancouver against an Austin side that's, they still haven't proven it to me yet this season. So I like Vancouver this week for defense. I also like NYC, as I mentioned, for keepers, so you can't go wrong with Martins, yet, still a bit expensive. So I do like him against Colorado. And then more of a stretch play is Wagner away at DC. So Wagner's on set pieces. DC are known to let in some goals. He is a bit pricey, though, for an away defender, so I'm not a huge fan of Wagner this week myself. And then moving down to standard pricing, I've got, Catranis or Anelli for Real Salt Lake at home against SKC. SKC continue to let in goals. These are some defenders who are on the attacking side. Catranis had quite a goal against Philly last week, unfortunately, against my Union. But yeah, I like that matchup this week, and they're about 7.5 million, so not too expensive. And then on that same side, so O'Toole, not too expensive. He can be on the attack sometimes. NYCFC are at home against Colorado. There's that chance of Colorado scoring, but still a decent shout and not too expensive. And that's also where Raposo comes in. So good clean sheet opportunity at home against Austin, but the toss-up there is, will Raposo start? I know Sartini likes to rotate his players, change it up a bit depending on the game. So I hope Raposo gets the start. He's only $6 million and a good option this week against Austin. And then another flyer pick. I always hesitate recommending a Chicago player, but Chihos, they're at home against New England. Bench play at best, but he's an option. Same thing goes for Marshall Ruddy. He's definitely a bench flyer as they're playing Dallas at home. He's not too expensive. He'll either hit pretty well or get you a 1 or a 0. So bit of a stretch play, but not too expensive. And that's also where Aragoni comes in. So Aragoni, he's not going to be too expensive. If you want to put him on the bench, see how he does against a shaky New England side, he's not a bad option. Let's take a look at midfielders. First up, Mr. Thiago Almada. So Almada played pretty well last week. He still I don't think, got the goal or an assist or anything. I think it was 0-0. But yeah, they're at home against Minnesota. I like Almada. He's a strong pick this week. And then Espinoza as well. So I'm one to lean more on, your home players in general for fantasy. So there are a lot of good midfield options this week from a matchup standpoint, but I still recommend your home midfielders a bit more than your away midfielders. So there's a lot of good options, but I'd still, recommend your home midfielder. So I do like Espinoza this week, and he's not too expensive as like a Lucho or a Evander, I believe. And then I've also got Santi at home against Colorado. He's doing great. He had a great score last week and the week before. I like that matchup against Colorado. Same thing goes for Gauld at home against Austin. Great matchup. Vancouver looking good. You got to go with Gauld this week. And then this was where, I can only fit 5 guys here for your premium midfield. And that's where I lean to a Lucho. So Lucho is away at Orlando. He is pricey for an away midfielder, but Cincinnati are playing great. He had a great score last week, and Orlando are known to let in some goals. Another matchup or another pick I like this week is Hani for Nashville at home against Montreal. So Hani, proved himself last week. It was against San Jose, so we'll see if he can keep in his good form. I like him more as a bench play this week, but he's not too expensive. And the same thing goes for Gomez at home against SKC. So Gomez is that attacking threat alongside Chicho up top, and they're playing a SKC side who have let in some goals. So I do like Gomez as well if you need to, save a bit on your budget. And then if you need to save a lot on your budget, I've got Kowalczyk at home against St. Louis. Only if you need it. As I said, there's a lot of good midfield options this week. So if you need someone that's cheap, Kowalczyk should be starting. But yeah, keep an eye out. Just make sure. All right, and forwards, of course, Lionel Messi. I don't see how you cannot pick him up week in, week out now that he is focused on the MLS regular season. So Messi and co are at home against the New York Red Bull. So you could pick Messi, you could pick Suarez. I think both are good picks this week. And then also Benteke against my Philadelphia Union. They are at home against Philly. I think it's a decent matchup for DC. I'm sure there's going to be a good amount of goals in this matchup. So yeah, I like Benteke. And then Chicho at home against Kansas City. Hard to pass up. Like I said before, SKC let in some goals, and Chicho is the attack overall for Real Salt Lake, he's always involved. So I like Chicho a lot this week. And then Brian White. Maybe you want to go with Brian White instead of Messi and Arango. Maybe you go with him as your third, though there are some other good options this week. He's at home against Austin. It's just tough to pick, who's going to hit. Is it going to be Gauld? Is it going to be White? But White is usually involved on those scoring chances for Vancouver, so I think he's a great pick this week. And then, of course, Bouanga. LAFC are away, and Bouanga isn't known to be as great away. He's scored a lot more at home than he has away, though they are playing San Jose. So it's a tough one. Do you go White? Do you go Bouanga? I think I'm leaning more towards Bouanga this week, but I think you can't go wrong with either one. And then if you're looking for a bit more of a budget play, also a bit of a risky play, I've got Bernadeschi at home against Dallas. Toronto really turned things on at the end of the game last week, and Bernadeschi was, driving all of that change, driving all the attack there. So I do like Bernadeschi. He's been creating a lot. He's been, looking for those scoring chances, so I like Bernadeschi against Dallas. Another stretch pick is Gigi against Minnesota. I'm not sure if he was injured. I think he was subbed off a bit early last week, so just keep an eye on that. And then for budget, I've got Owusu at home against Dallas. Like I said, I think you've got some pretty great striker picks this week if you want to spend the cash, but if you are strapped, I think Owusu is a good option at home against Dallas. He's in good form. He's scoring. And yeah, I like the pick. And finishing things off with captains, who else but Leo Messi? If you don't captain him and Messi pops off, which he does, you're usually hurting pretty bad. So I know it's not as fun, but everyone's captaining Messi, so you probably should too. And I've also got Chicho. Maybe this is the week where Chicho surpasses Messi. We will find out. But yeah, Chicho I think is another great option at home against SKC. And a very safe bet, looking at midfield with a decent floor, I've got Santi at home against Colorado. All right, so that wraps up the video this week. Thanks everyone for watching. Hope you did well last week, and good luck in week 11. If you haven't watched, be sure to keep an eye out for my live videos. I've been going live around 9 p.m. Eastern time on Wednesdays, just, walking through my approach to picking my team each week. So yeah, feel free to drop in on YouTube Live, and yeah, I'll see you there.